Fellas, that might have been one of the weirdest cards I've had to cover in a long time, with one of the biggest betting scandals potentially taking place on this card with Dulgarian. An eye poke turned into a knockout, going completely against what Tom Aspinall did last year, and a bunch of finishes on what was classed as one of the worst cards of this year. Garcia versus Onama went down. Overall, it kind of follows the whole narrative of bad cards turning out good. Awful card on paper actually turned out pretty well, and we'll go in there with the first fight. Talita Alencar versus Ariane Carnelossi. You've got to celebrate whenever there's a finish in Women MMA. Alencar gets the sub in the third round. Made it look pretty easy, to be fair. She was dominating the fight. Looked much better on the feet. Gets the submission in the third round. Chokes out Carnelossi and gets the submission. And I will say submissions are a theme this night. I think we had like 5 or 6 different submissions on this one card. But yeah, Alencar dominated Carnelossi on the ground. Took her down. Obviously got the submission as well. And even throughout the fight, she was just taking her down, running her down with ground and pound as well. Dominant performance from Alencar, and Alencar's probably one of the few fighters that can actually deal with the physicality of Carnelossi, because obviously Carnelossi, she's got fucking arms like a 145-pound man. Alencar's getting up there as well. She's pretty jacked herself, but yeah, Ariane was saved by the bell in the second round. Second round, Alencar had her in a rear naked choke, gets saved by the bell. 5 more seconds, she would have been done, and then she gets squeezed to near death in the third round, has to tap out. Alencar gets the job done, and I will say it was a good win for Alencar as well, because I said in the breakdown before this fight, she kind of looked a bit one-dimensional. She had good jiu-jitsu, obviously comes from a jiu-jitsu background, pretty poor wrestling and striking, but in this fight, her striking looked sharp too, you know, a couple of spinning back kicks to the body she was able to land. Her leg kicks were stinging Carnelossi as well. Her striking looked pretty sharp as well. The only flaw is her gas tank. Well, I think once Alencar has a gas tank on hold, top 15 worthy. Like I said, amazing BJJ. Striking's improved as well. Obviously quite dangerous as well now. So I think if Alencar can get a gas tank on hold, she'll be quite dangerous. So good one for Alencar. Dominates Carnelossi and makes it look easy. Gets the sub in the third round. Then we had Rowe versus Seok. We might have a problem in the fucking welterweight division with Korean Tyson. Seok dominates Rowe across 15 minutes. Didn't even make it look close. Yeah, this guy's going to be a problem, man. Especially after what he did to Ardelean in his debut. And to do that to Rowe in his second fight in the UFC, he absolutely mauls Rowe the entire fight. Takes him down in about 20 seconds into the first round. And that was kind of the theme across all 15 minutes. Just taking down Rowe, dominating him on the ground. Rowe couldn't really get going with anything. Getting smothered by Seok. He must be an absolute nightmare to fight. Like, just constantly getting taken down, not being able to get back up. But he's a busy grappler as well. I know people are going to call him boring and whatever, and I'm not going to sit here and act like he's one of the most entertaining fighters I've ever watched, but at least he's busy on the ground. He's looking to deal ground and pound, and no one can do a damn thing about it. He did it to Ardelean. He's now done it to Rowe. We should be talking about this guy getting someone in the top 15 as well. If you look at the quality of wins he's had in the UFC, I think he's got someone in the top 15 next. He's definitely got top 15 potential, 100%. I think there's definitely guys in the top, even like a Gilbert Burns. I know that's probably quite a big leap, but you do like a Seok versus Gilbert Burns next. I kind of favour him against Gilbert Burns, but yeah, Rowe, dangerous dude on the feet. Like I said, 100% finishing rate in all of his wins, but the guy was helpless tonight. He had nothing to offer. He actually tried eye gouging Seok as well at one point in the fight, but yeah, he was helpless. He got taken down, mauled the entire fight. He tried looking for submissions here and there, but he had no help. Dominant win for Seok. And I don't just want to call everybody that goes on a bit of a winning streak in the UFC a prospect, but I mean, the guy is a bit of a prospect. Knockout power on the feet, dominant grappler in 2 of his wins in the UFC against decent level opponents, both on winning streaks. So that's a solid win for Seok. And I think if the UFC, you know, they want to push this guy, give him someone in the top 15, potentially even like a Gilbert Burns. So good win for Seok. Dominant performance, completely mauls Rowe across 15 minutes. Then we had Montserrat Ruiz versus Ardelean. Classic Ardelean performance. Comes to scrap and gets the job done. And she's kind of grown on me now, is Ardelean. You know, she started off in the UFC. She lost her first 2 fights. Fair enough, they were against decent opponents. She lost them both, and I was like, okay, she's awful. And she's now on a 2-fight winning streak with, you know, going to a decision, but she's made them both scraps. I kind of like Ardelean because she just throws down every single fight, just walks forward, throws down, and she kind of overwhelms people. She kind of reminds me a bit of Sam Hughes. Sam Hughes is similar in the sense that she used to be one of the worst fighters in women MMA, and just from pure grit and heart, she's been able to kind of pull it off and get a couple of wins, and that's what Ardelean's doing. Her striking's improving as well. She just walked down Montserrat Ruiz, had her bloodied up in the first round as well. Fair play for Montserrat Ruiz. You know, she had heart, she was a dog, she didn't get finished, but I just don't think she's UFC worthy. She's now on a 4-fight losing streak. 3 of those losses are by finish, and one of them's her getting walked down by Ardelean. So probably going to go back to the regional scene for Ruiz, but yeah, solid win from Ardelean. She's one of the few fighters out there in women MMA that can actually put on fun fights, because she just comes to scrap every single time, walks forward, throws punches, doesn't really care about getting hit. So, good win for Ardelean, gets the job done, and yeah, she's kind of had a career turnaround, walked her down and battered her. Then we had Donte Johnson versus Sedriques Dumas. I swear, if the UFC keep Dumas in the UFC again, I mean, the guy should have been cut a couple of fights ago, but after this, if he's still in the UFC, I'm going to be surprised. Donte Johnson gets the sub in the second round. Yeah, he actually struggled early on. Dumas held him against the cage. Johnson gets back up, and the size of this guy in the middleweight division just completely flipped the switch, took down Sedriques Dumas, got him in a choke, and gets the submission win over Sedriques Dumas. Sedriques Dumas remains in the streets where he belongs, as Donte Johnson, this guy's so compact for the middleweight division. I know he fought in the heavyweight division on the regional crowd. I think he fought a heavyweight on the contender series as well. So to go from a heavyweight to a middleweight is crazy. The guy was so compact for heavyweight, but even at middleweight, he looks big for this division. He's just like a Michael Chandler-esque like build, like jacked, but compressed. But anyway, super explosive is Donte Johnson, 100% finishing rate, heavy wrestling, powerful hands, and it showed against Sedriques Dumas. He was tagging him on the feet, obviously took him down with ease, and obviously got the submission pretty quick, and he's super promising, is Donte Johnson. I'm not going to say he's a prospect or anything, because, you know, it's not exactly difficult to beat Sedriques Dumas, at least not domestically, but he gets the job done easily, takes him down, gets the sub, 100% finishing rate, keeps intact. So fair play to Donte Johnson. I think if he can work on his grappling defense a little bit, he could be a bit of a problem. Obviously super dangerous, and like I said, if the UFC keeps Sedriques Dumas in the UFC after all this, what are they doing, man? The guy should have been cut a couple of fights ago. So if he's still in the UFC come like Tuesday morning, I don't know what the UFC have going on, or what dirt that Sedriques has against the UFC, because the guy needs to leave the UFC ASAP. Good win for Donte Johnson. Made it look fairly easy. Then we had Ketlen Vieira versus Norma Dumont. I mean, it was slightly better than I expected. I expected it to be boring. Norma Dumont pulls off the win by decision. I mean, it was all right. It was a very close fight, to be fair. Some people thought Ketlen Vieira got the job done. I'm not really too bothered. If anything, for the division, you kind of want Norma Dumont to get the job done, so there's like a new contender in the division. Both women looked pretty average on the feet, though. I mean, it's just a classic women's bantamweight performance. They both didn't really initiate the grappling. They both looked pretty average and stiff on the feet. Norma Dumont landed a little bit more. She got the job done, and she secures yet another decision win. Obviously, we're all waiting for Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. That's like the big fight in the bantamweight division, and I'm hoping they can pull that off like early 2026, preferably like the first two cards of 2026. But after that, I mean, Norma Dumont's going to be the next contender. Has Norma Dumont ever had like a highlight reel in the UFC? I'm genuinely curious. Has she ever had like a big highlight reel in the UFC? She's going to be a Kayla Harrison victim. They'll do Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. Whoever wins will probably face Norma Dumont, and they'll both of them squash Norma Dumont. So good win for Dumont, to be fair. She was celebrating like crazy, like you got a split decision whenever Ketlen Vieira. She's probably going to get a title fight in the next fight, because there's no other contender in this division apart from obviously Nunes, who's coming back. So it is what it is. Dumont gets the job done. Can't really comment too much on that. Then we had Timmy Cuamba versus Chang Lee. I can't believe I was calling this guy Korean Khabib. Yeah, Timmy Cuamba has a bit of a big comeback. Gets taken down. Well, not taken down, but he does get taken down and gets his back taken throughout the first round, and then comes back and kind of dominates Chang Lee for the rest of the fight. So good win for Timmy Cuamba. Yeah, bro, he's not Korean Khabib. I was calling Chang Lee Korean Khabib, and to be fair to him, he had like, I think like an 80% finishing rate. Most of his wins by ground and pound. It was looking promising with the grappling, but this fight, he looked awful. Timmy Cuamba just dominated Chang Lee, batted him on the feet the entire fight, and then bullies him on the ground as well. He was shooting takedowns. Chang Lee looked exhausted after the second round, and obviously Timmy Cuamba took him down, threatened the submissions, and bullied him with ground and pound. Another super impressive win for Cuamba as well. I mean, like I said, this guy was, I think, he might have been like a 1 or 2 fight streak, or a 2 fight losing streak in the UFC, and now was on a 2 fight winning streak, knocking out Roberto Romero and shutting down this big cat fucking Korean prospect as a massive underdog. So that's fair play to Timmy Cuamba. And one thing I have to respect Timmy Cuamba as well is the guy has heart, and he's usually in fun fights. Like, we've never really had a boring Timmy Cuamba fight, and he always kind of struggles early on, and they'll have like a big comeback winner. We saw that in this fight with Chang Lee. Yeah, Chang Lee was probably a bit overhyped. Korean Khabib? Definitely not Korean Khabib, mate. Maybe Korean Jonathan Pierce, because I don't know what that performance was. He looked good in the first. I mean, he got the back of Timmy Cuamba, threatened a rear naked choke, but couldn't really put anything together after that, and kind of just got battered. So good win for Timmy Cuamba. Then we had Kevin Christian versus Billy Elekana. Yeah, this was another really weird moment on the card as well. So Kevin Christian was winning the fight with leg kicks. Billy Elekana decides he actually wants to keep his contract in the UFC, so he drops Kevin Christian, immediately latches up a rear naked choke, and then the referee actually misses out Kevin Christian tapping. So the rear naked choke goes on like 5 or 6 seconds longer than it should have. And then eventually, obviously, the referee stops the fight, and obviously Kevin Christian's okay. But this was a much needed win for Billy Elekana, because he started off against Bogdan Guskov, looked good against Guskov, and then quit. And then he faces Ibo Aslan, beats him in an extremely boring fight, and now he's finally got the big highlight reel, dropping Kevin Christian and following up by an out-cold submission. This was much needed for Billy Elekana. Drops him with a big right hand. I think he busted his eye as well, and then chokes him unconscious with an extended rear naked choke. You can't really blame the referee for this. Like, the referee obviously should have stopped the submission a lot earlier because Kevin Christian was tapping, but you can't really blame the ref. Kevin Christian was tapping the mat, not the opponent anyway. And then by the time the referee actually looked at the other hand, Kevin Christian was already out cold. So you can't really blame the referee for that, even though it is a bit dangerous, because if Kevin Christian had been out cold at that point, you know, it could have been dangerous if he went on any longer. But anyway, good win for Billy Elekana. Finally got the highlight reel. Definitely seems UFC worthy as well. I mean, like I said, he looked good against Bogdan Guskov in his debut, so good one for Elekana. Gets the job done, and hopefully we can see this new version of Elekana, not this gun-shy version that we saw against Ibo Aslan. In terms of Kevin Christian, he's probably going to be out for quite some time. He took a lot of damage in that fight, especially with that, well, not a lot of damage in the fight itself, but that big right hand that Elekana dropped, you know, he made, I think he busted his eye in, well, by the time the fight was over. So good one for Elekana. Hopefully he can get the momentum. And anyway, then we had Allan Nascimento versus Cody Durden. Allan Nascimento gets the sub in the second round. I mean, he made it look easy with the submission. I mean, as the second the grappling was initiated, Allan Nascimento wraps up the Dorse choke, gets the job done over Cody Durden, who's one of the most vulnerable guys in the UFC, is Durden. Hittable on the feet, chokeable on the ground. And to be fair, this was going in Durden's favour. You know, he stepped in on short notice against Allan Nascimento, and he was kind of piecing him up on the feet. He was walking him down, landing the big shots with the boxing. Durden looked good, and he definitely won the first round. And then literally the second that grappling's initiated, I think Allan Nascimento might have dropped him, or Cody Durden might have slipped. I forgot what happened. But the second that grappling's initiated, Allan Nascimento latches up a choke like it's nothing, and easily submits Cody Durden. That's obviously due to the fact that Cody Durden's got awful submission defence, but Allan Nascimento is probably the best unranked grappler in this division. I mean, Jafel Filo is probably got the second kind of runner-up for being the best grappler in this division, and Allan Nascimento just made it look, well, he already beat Jafel Filo with the grappling, and he's obviously got this big BJJ background, so I think he's definitely the best unranked grappler, and I think he's got to be someone in the top 15 next for Allan Nascimento. I think he's got 3 or 4 wins in the UFC, just submitted Cody Durden, beat Jafel Filo as well. Let's give Allan Nascimento someone in the top 15. He has got legit grappling. Obviously, his striking's the big lacking thing for Allan Nascimento, but grappling wise, he might be one of the best grapplers in this division. Great win for Nascimento, and he didn't look too bad on the feet. Obviously, he was getting picked apart by Durden early on, and then he kind of made a bit of a comeback with the kicks and everything. But like to get a submission that quickly just shows how good his ground game is. So I worry about Cody Durden, man. This guy might be cut from the UFC. I mean, what is that, like 5 out of his last 6 fights he's lost, and his last win was like Suma Daji a few years back. So yeah, probably going to get cut from the UFC soon is Cody Durden, which is unfortunate because, you know, he is fun to watch. But regardless, good win for Allan Nascimento. Gets the job done pretty easily the second that grappling gets initiated. Then we had Charles Radtke versus Daniel Frunza. Daniel Frunza is basically the human highlight reel for whoever he's fighting. It was a dominant win for Charles Radtke. Obviously, taking notes out of Bilal Muhammad's page, dominates Charles Frunza with the grappling, bullies him the entire fight, and then the third round with about 30 seconds left to go, pulls off yet another submission on the card against Daniel Frunza. Dominant win for Charles Radtke though. Bullies Frunza on the ground. As soon as the fight starts, he takes him down and starts bullying him with ground and pound. Daniel Frunza wasn't really looking to defend any submissions. He was kind of trying to fire back with ground and pound while he had his back taken. Second round, same thing. Gets taken down, slashed open with elbows. And then in the third round, Charles Radtke, with about 30 seconds left to go, gets the submission and it makes easy work of Daniel Frunza. Frunza's been butchered in both of his UFC fights. This guy has like I think a 100% finishing rate. He got bullied by Reese McKee in his debut. It was a 10-7 round, and he got dropped by every big shot on the feet. And then basically the same thing happened in this fight, except it was on the ground with Charles Radtke. So you're probably going to have to send Daniel Frunza back to the regional scene. He's been bullied in both his fights in the UFC. Good luck for Charles Radtke, though. You know, obviously we're known for being a decent striker, pretty technical guy on the feet. And then obviously he's coming with his heavy grappling approach. So good win for Charles Radtke. Well-rounded guy. Gets the finisher with 30 seconds left to go. So, yeah, good for Charles Radtke. And I guess Daniel Frunza can go beat up on some cans on the regional scene because the guy's been nothing but a punching bag in the UFC so far. And then we had one of potentially the biggest betting scandals in the UFC. Not even just this year, but possibly in history, with Isaac Dulgarian and Yadier del Valle. So Isaac Dulgarian gets submitted pretty easily by Yadier Del Valle. Shoots a sloppy takedown, gets his back taken. Yadier Del Valle looks great, and the fight ends. And then we look back at the odds in this fight, and it states nothing confirmed, but there's something going on off with Dulgarian and Del Valle. Friend who works for Hard Rock says that they got 5 very large bets from different people on Del Valle round 1 all of a sudden, and the activity was flagged in their system, and now there's a lot of buzz about it. So essentially, the betting odds for Dulgarian and Del Valle switched rapidly before the fight, like a couple hours before the fight, to the point where I think Yadier Del Valle was a massive favourite all of a sudden. Coincidentally, Isaac Dulgarian also used to get coached by James Cross, who's obviously that big guy in the betting scandal, and there's been clips going around of Isaac Dulgarian talking about how fighters should get a certain percentage of bets. So I think it's safe to say we just witnessed a fixed fight where Isaac Dulgarian was paid to lose. And it's showing the fight itself. He shoots a sloppy takedown, gets his back taken, tries making it look like he's trying to fight the hands of Yadier Del Valle, and gets submitted pretty easily. So I think we might have just witnessed one of the few betting scandals in the UFC. Isaac Dulgarian's probably going to get arrested. I don't want to even know what's going to happen to James as well, because he was definitely involved in this. So yeah, that's Isaac Dulgarian's MMA career done. Fixed fight. Good for Yadier Del Valle though, to be fair. I know it was kind of fixed and you can't really take much about it, but he's a bit of a legit prospect. Elite Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well as the wrestling to back it up. He's not just one of these BJJ plays, he's got the wrestling too, and he's got a ton of potential. He has got really good grappling, and even though it's kind of hard to praise him because we kind of knew that Dulgarian gave up the win and it was a fixed fight, he looks good out there. But yeah, crazy shit. I wonder what's going to go on with this as well. I'm curious to see how they investigate this, because that's without a doubt, unless it's extremely coincidental, that Isaac Dulgarian's been talking about gambling before. He's part of, well, he used to get coached by James Cross, and the underdog bets has just switched massively. It was a fixed fight, so that's probably going to be it for Dulgarian. We'll see you in jail. But I guess it was a good one for Yadier Del Valle. Again, not really so much you can take about it. Fair play to people who caught on and bet on Del Valle last minute, but yeah, some snaky shit going on behind the scenes. You're going to have to keep up to date with the MMA world to see what goes on with Isaac Dulgarian after this. But we might have just witnessed, not even might have, I'm 99% sure we've just witnessed a fixed fight in the UFC. And safe to say Dulgarian and James are going to be in a lot of trouble. How the fuck has James come back as well? How has he done this again? As if he didn't have one of the biggest scandals in the UFC and he's just decided to prop up again in 2025 with another massive scandal. Not a good look, but yeah, another betting fix in the UFC is what it is. And another submission. Anyway, then we had Jeremiah Wells versus Themba Gorimbo. The fall off of Themba Gorimbo's got to be studied. Jeremiah Wells gets the job done, counters Themba Gorimbo, puts him in about 15 different submission attempts this fight, and ultimately gets the decision win. Can we just talk about the fall off of Themba Gorimbo? This guy went from being a likable guy in the UFC, 4-fight winning streak, gifted a house by The Rock, and now he just seems like a bit of a dick in every interview that he's doing. People are calling him a scammer as well because of the lack of promises he made, and now he's 0-2 in his last 2 fights. Themba Gorimbo has had a massive fall off. In terms of Jeremiah Wells, I mean, it looked good in this fight. Themba Gorimbo's submission defense is awful. No wonder he got flatlined by Darschok against Vicente Luque. He gave up his neck about 20 times in this fight. His submission game is awful. You put him against any semi-decent grappler, he's getting put out cold. But it was a dominant comeback from Wells. Themba Gorimbo looked decent in the first round. Classic Themba Gorimbo performance. You know, take him down, control with the wrestling. And then Jeremiah Wells comes back and then fights back against Themba Gorimbo, out-grapples him and threatens a submission. But yeah, huge fall off for Themba Gorimbo, to be fair. Not really too many people like him. He's now on a 2-fight losing streak. Arguably a scammer too, so yeah, I said this before in the breakdown as well. Themba Gorimbo, I know he had a lot of hype because of the whole Rock situation. He's a very average fighter. Very average. There's nothing special about this guy with all due respect. He's not got great grappling, hasn't got great finish ability, hasn't beaten anybody good before, so I mean, he's a good control wrestler, but he's never going to be in the top 15, and he's just a very average fighter. But good win for Jeremiah Wells, kind of needed that win, is what it is. Then we had Waldo Cortez Acosta Salsa Boy versus Ante Delija. This might be the worst 7 days of Tom Aspinall's career. And he's had some bad days as Tom Aspinall. But anyway, the fight itself, super weird. So Waldo Cortez Acosta flatlines Ante Delija after getting poked in the eye. So essentially what goes on in this fight, the fight starts and Ante Delija's looking pretty clean. He was landed on Cortez Acosta, goes for the finishing sequence, and in that sequence, Aspinall's teammate in Ante Delija, who was actually talking shit about Cyril Gane for eye poking, pokes Cortez Acosta in the eye with his pinky finger. So already that's a bit of a red flag for the Aspinall team. And then to make things worse for Team Aspinall, Waldo Cortez Acosta, the victim in this situation, doesn't, I don't want to say quit because Aspinall didn't quit, he had no choice. But I mean, he did quit, but he didn't really have a choice. But Cortez Acosta doesn't refuse to end the fight. And it was a weird stoppage as well because the referee stopped the fight and he never actually gave like an official ending to the fight as well. And then it turns out that they were just having a bit of a break. Cortez Acosta comes back. The fight starts again after we thought Elijah just had a TKO victory after celebrating. And then with about 30 seconds, Cortez Acosta slumps Ante Elijah out cold and finishes Aspinall's teammate. So in this last 7 days, Aspinall's had his eye poked by Cyril Gane. He's dealing with eye problems. He's getting called a quitter by every MMA fan and their dog. He's going to have to wait even longer for his next fight. And in the meantime, his teammate's just been flatlined by Cortez Acosta. He's been called out by Cortez Acosta. And this makes Aspinall look even worse. But yeah, this might be one of the biggest comebacks in UFC history. From basically getting finished and getting waved off near enough to Cortez Acosta firing back and knocking out Elijah that quickly. That's crazy. That has to be one of the biggest comebacks ever. Just gets the finish. And I'm kind of happy that this happened again. I'm not happy in the way that it happened because, you know, it just makes Aspinall look like shit. But I kind of didn't want Elijah to win because he was never going to become a champion. And if he was going to become a champion, it would have meant that Aspinall wouldn't be the champion because he would have vacated the belt. So I'm kind of glad that this whole Elijah Aspinall thing is no longer a thing. And I'm kind of excited for Cortez Acosta as well. He's one of my, I don't want to say he's one of my favorites, but he's like a unique character in the heavyweight division. And the guy is talented. I reckon he could knock out Curtis Blades. I reckon if you do Acosta versus Blades, I think Acosta could knock out Blades. But yeah, fucking crazy spot, man. For the fight to be basically near enough waved off, and for Elijah to get the TKO victory, for a couple of minutes later, Cortez Acosta to slump Elijah with eye problems. It's a great day for Cortez Acosta, and it's been an awful week for Team Aspinall. Probably the worst week in terms of, yeah, just the worst week for Team Aspinall. But yeah, you've got to throw Acosta in a number one contender fight. Maybe you do like, if you're going to do Aspinall versus Gane 2, or maybe even think about Porton versus Aspinall, I think Cortez Acosta versus Volkov for like a title eliminator could be good, or even like a Cortez Acosta versus Blades for an easy highlight reel, because I think Cortez Acosta, he's unique. He's got highlight reels. He's a good boxer. He's talented. He just knocked out Aspinall's teammate. Massive comeback win. One of the biggest comeback wins we had for Cortez Acosta. And then we had the main event, Steven Garcia versus David Onama. Never give David Onama a main event again because Steve Garcia makes it look easy. And it wasn't just a classic, he broke him down throughout the fight. He walked him down. Walked him down the entire first round, landing combinations on David Onama. And then when he got bored, lands a big shot and TKOs David Onama. I mean, that was the most TKO finish ever. I don't remember anything happening from David Onama. He just took a beating from Steve Garcia for like 3 minutes. Eventually got wobbled and got finished by Steve Garcia. So, war mean machine. Easy win for Steve Garcia. I mean, you couldn't have really better for him. And the guy's got potential, man. I mean, I know he's running his mouth on the mic, but I think he's, what is it now? Like, he's finished 6 of his last 7 fights by TKO, and his only decision is to what's his name? Calvin Kattar. He's on an 8-fight winning streak, I believe, as well. So, Steve Garcia's legit, man. Big KO streak. Makes it look easy against David Onama, who I think was a favourite in this fight as well. And the guy's got potential. He's got to be given someone in the top 5 next. Maybe like an Arnold Allen versus Steve Garcia, or like a Yadier Rodriguez versus Steve Garcia. But after that performance in the main event, give him someone in the top 5. And this guy must hit like a truck. I know he's got good, slick boxing at his base, but the fact that he's crumpled so many decent opponents, all by TKO, the guy must have some like power in his fucking fist, man. The guy just, every time he lands a big shot, he's able to finish people. But yeah, David Onama had nothing to offer. He didn't fire anything back against Steve Garcia. He didn't look threatening in the slightest. He was on the back foot the entire fight, getting picked apart. And then the first big shot that Steve Garcia landed, he was able to crumple David Onama. So safe to say that Onama's getting no more main events, but solid win for Steve Garcia. Gets the job done. Let's give him someone in the top 5. But yeah, that was a solid fight night card, to be fair. I know on paper it was kind of hated on, but the fight card itself wasn't that bad. One of the weirdest cards I've had to deal with the situations that I've explained. But let me know your thoughts on this fight night card. I thought it was weird, but I thought it was a decent card, especially for Apex standards. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching.